Okay. The ones on its face. The ones on its face, class. Oh, I set myself up with that one. Okay, yeah. I'm talking to computer programming A right now, alright? So, when you're making a CodePen, okay? Because I think a lot of you want to move here so you can do the do more complicated things. When you start a pen, you have to go to settings. Every time you make a new pen, you must add in p5.js. This is our new best friend, okay? p5.js. We're moving beyond GameLab, okay? But that's not to say you can. You don't have to do this in CodePen. Just you may find this like more fun to use or neater, okay? Because it allows you to do complicated things like rotated, face cheeks of a tiger, okay? So when we start a new pen, you always need a setup function. This is one of the differences between CodePen and GameLab. You're going to have to create canvas. And let's make it size 400 by 400. And then maybe we'll make it a gray background because it's easier for you all to see. Okay, 150. Save and run. With what I've done so far, I should see a gray screen, right, on the left-hand side. And it's 400 by 400 pixels long. I have my default layout to be like so, but you can change it. I think it may look like this on yours. It may look like this. This looks like GameLab, which is why I have it looking like so. This is under Change View. If you're curious and you want the Run button to appear, you have to go to Settings, under Behavior. You turn this on and off, okay? So if you look in the gray on the top part, it disables and enables the Run button. So let's say we didn't have it there. This is by default. Any changes that you make, like I'm going to make a dark background, so I change it to 255. No, 0. It does your changes like in a couple seconds. And then 255, it turns white. So you don't need to press a run function, but maybe that messes with you. You like to see, you like to have more control of your programs, so we can turn auto-updating off. And that way, only when we're ready, we click the run button up here, then we see our designs. The parts that should be familiar is function draw. This was the green block you were using in GameLab. Notice now you have to type out these squiggly braces, they're formally called, but Mr. Chan's weird. He calls these squiggly brackets, okay? A bracket is actually this thing. Those are brackets. These are parentheses, okay? These are called braces. Yes, but I, reject the status quo. So I call these squiggly brackets. Because they're squiggly. Okay? Then in here, let's try to create the cheeks which lie on the face of a tiger. Alright, how will we do so? We're like thinking, okay, an ellipse. Let's start there, okay? May look like a cloud, but it's not going to be a cloud, because I'm going to call it a cheek. Ta-da! Okay? Now the troublesome thing here is, okay, that's great. Maybe I want to move it down a bit towards the center-ish. Maybe like 175-ish, right? You've been playing with a lot of coordinates like so. Oh, no! Ah, it's disappeared. Okay, my mistake. See? Alright, good catch. Now it's like there, right? So if I were visually to draw them, I kind of want like another rotated ellipse going this way. So rotating the coordinates, that's hard. So instead we're going to enlist the help of a curve, maybe an arc to draw the other fluffy parts of a cheek that lies on the face of a tiger. So we need more complicated drawing functions. Thus, we go to the Google and type in p5.js. Your new reference over here tells you what this new library can do. Namely, we're focusing in on the shape functions. The one that's interesting is Bezier, B-Z-I-E-R. And this thing works in a funny manner. So we can copy and paste this code to have this curve be drawn, and we have some guidelines there. Maybe we don't want to use those, but we can edit and adjust. All right, woo, we have that. So notice format, okay? These two things over here, they don't need to be there. These lines are just to help us make sense of these curves. These coordinates is how it gets confusing, okay? And I think I have a slide in Google Classroom that better illustrates what goes on in those coordinates. In order to get curves, you have two anchor points and you have like magnetic points, kind of. Points that the curve bends towards. So if you go on your slides, somewhere in here, I have a nice visual, okay? And you can make up your own, and we may end up doing so in this demo. So slide 50 something. No. Where are my shape functions? All right, right over here, Bezier, right? If you want curves, if you want fluffy cheeks that lie on the face of a tiger, this is an example of how it works. Notice, red and blue, those are your two endpoints, right? Your two coordinate points at the very left-hand side and the very right-hand side. Those are your anchor points. And now the weird part is what happens in the middle, okay? So notice the fill that happens, right? A curve is being drawn connecting this, but you're wondering, okay, how is this space formed over here? That's when we focus in now on the center couple of points. Notice they're in green and purple. When they're on opposite sides, right? Think about like a magnet. This is like the polarities opposite, so it's attracted towards these two invisible points, right? That pull the curve in different directions. Notice when they're in opposite sides, there's a slight curve to your original line. And when they're on one end, it's not very curvy, it's kind of weird. And then what's neat, that's the other extreme, is if you want it to curve one way, you have those 2 points on a particular slide, and then you have this arc that's drawn. And maybe we'll try to utilize this while making the cheeks of our tiger. Okay? So maybe we'll borrow this line of code, we'll adjust. Go here, that's great. So this one is copied and pasted from p5.js. The beginning of the cheeks of the tiger. All right. More fluffy cheeks of the tiger. So I'm using comments. Notice I switched languages. In JavaScript, it's actually the // my bad. // Okay. And then down here, we have this big Bezier curve. All right, way too large. So let's move it like maybe down here where my mouse is kind of outlining. I want it to go like this. Okay, so it's one anchor point. Looks like it's within the ellipse. Maybe it is 180-ish and 190. Oops. Save and run. I'm moving the left anchor point somewhere in the middle. Okay, that's nice. A little too far. I'll move it left a bit. Move it up a tiny bit more. 185. Save and run. Doop. Okay, good enough. Let's adjust this end. I want it to be over here. Okay, so the difference in those pixels isn't that much. So if I first anchor point's here, my next anchor point maybe over here. Let's have it go over there. Okay, so the y-coordinate increased a lot more than it did in the x-coordinate. So where it was 170, I now make it maybe 195. And now this one I went down a little bit more. So then maybe we'll make that 205. Let's see. Cool. And now here comes the weird invisibleness, right? So let's try to recreate what I had in my slide. I'm using an ellipse, a really small one, to help me identify, okay, where are those points that are pulling my curve, right? Ellipse. Noticing I'm using these two coordinates to understand how my curve bends. They're rather tiny circles, but I do want them visible. Save and run. I messed up somewhere. Did I spell ellipse correctly? Oh, it's on the same line as Bezier. Okay, so those are my anchor points. Let's move them closer to our curve, because my goal is to get like a little arc, a little oval like this. So this anchor point is going to move way down over here. Let's say that is 75 and 250. Save and run. Whoop. Okay, so I want it down there. Let's see what happens when we move that anchor point down there. You'll notice a lot of this is experimenting, especially when we're doing things visually. We're playing around with the function. Okay. That could have gone a bit too phallic very quickly. I'm glad it didn't. Yes, okay? But you can see the fluff from the tiger is beginning to form. Yes, fluffy it is. So maybe 260. We'll move this point up, move this point, leave that one there. Okay, so let's see what happens if we change that. And then you'll experiment with this, and then you repeat it different ways. Okay, now it tilted a little bit more. That's how we use a curve. You might find this helpful when you're making more complicated animals that are not just round and circular, you're angled ellipses. Okay. I'll post this up on YouTube. You're welcome to look over this